Hello, we are at Utah's Natural History Museum looking at evolution. We're going to talk about Bitcoin and why it's sure to rise in the next 2 years. Not 100% sure, of course, but most likely. But first, we have to have some education. And even though this museum talks a lot about evolution and the changing of wildlife fauna over the years, as we can see, we have to remember that there is no theory of evolution, only a list of creatures that Chuck Norris lets live. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, we're going to talk about why Bitcoin will most likely rise within the next year or two. One is because of the halving, and we've talked a lot about that. There's going to be an anticipated squeeze in supply, and that's really going to get people to actually invest in it. But two, the institutional, despite what Tone Vays says, the institutional interest is actually there. If you haven't heard, Grayscale noticed a 3x tripling in institutional, basically, demand for Ethereum and XRP. One is because Bitcoin and XRP Bitcoin and Ethereum prices have risen. The demands for Bitcoin and Ethereum, they have risen so much. And the other is some people are looking to diversify away from traditional assets. Now, they have increased their exposure for Bitcoin and Ethereum at the cost of decreasing their percentage exposure in other major assets like Litecoin and XRP. But overall, the demand is up for cryptocurrencies. And the other reason is we see many, many vendors actually starting to accept cryptocurrencies as payment. Now, I'm not going to say that people are using those cryptocurrencies as payment, because I don't think people are actually using that option. Not really so much because of the transaction costs or anything, but because people are trying to hold on to cryptocurrency because they believe it will be a higher price in the future. Now, that's one of the major drawbacks of cryptocurrencies, because people see them as more of a speculative tool than as an actual in-use tool, and things like BTC might actually be better as a store of value, and that's what people are actually really starting to see it as. Just basically a store of value like gold, the scarcity of Bitcoin, and more. Here is a look at all the creatures that Chuck Norris has made go extinct, including the mighty Brachiosaurus over there. But back to Bitcoin, I do think that the combination of institutional investment, especially evidence from stuff like Grayscale, the supply shock, and the fact that more vendors are actually accepting and adopting it. You can actually pay for everything in life with Bitcoin. It's just a little bit hard in terms of just getting everyday things, but you can go through you can actually go through the Bitcoin cards and everything to do that. So I do think adoption is coming. It's just coming very, very slowly. And due to the squeeze, I actually think that the price of BTC will go up to $50,000 by May of next year, and then come back down to 8 or maybe like 8 or 9,000, and you have to sell before the drop comes. Many people think it's going to go up to 100,000, and that could actually be the ceiling. So you have to make a decision for yourself whether or not to hold past 50K or even past 100K. I do not believe in John McAfee that it'll reach 1 million by next year, because that seems just a little too far-fetched for right now. So right now, if you're looking to catch the first wave, it's definitely going to be Bitcoin and probably Ethereum, because I think institutional investment demand is going to put those above the other coins right now. So there's actually renewed demand for Bitcoin from institutional investors, and a lot more ways than back in 2017 to spend Bitcoin. And based on those things, I would have to say that things are really looking up for Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies right now. So that's why I think Bitcoin will for sure go on a bull run. I'm going to say like Q4 of this year and definitely Q1 of next year. Now, BTC might keep running after that because the perceived shock in supply after the halving, and we didn't really hit a maximum in Bitcoin until about a year after the halving last time, so it might run up until then, and the major rise might actually be towards the end of that. And in that case, we will reach 100,000. So be sure to to watch for that. And I would, do a tiered cash out, honestly, where if once Bitcoin hits 20,000, I would do a tiered cash out where I would cash out some at 30, cash out some more at 40, cash out some at 50, and have tiers of cash outs all the way up to 100K so you don't get caught holding bags once it actually does retrace. So that's the report for today. This is the Natural History Museum with dinosaurs, everything that we just saw. And remember, all this stuff is just there, and there is no real theory of evolution. It's just a list of creatures that Chuck Norris lets live. Thank you and have a nice day.